Thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. Here we are today with attorney Suri Chata Jimenez, such a really an important guest to have with us today, a helpful guest to have with us today as we continue to keep our eyes on the YSL trial that is still underway. Here is some footage from inside the courtroom shot earlier during the course of the trial. Now, the reason why Suri is such a really helpful guest for us is that Suri, you were a defense attorney on this trial. You got your client's charges dismissed. What have you kind of been noticing as this trial develops? And here we are now. It's day 6.
Well, day 6, I think they've maybe gone through about 4 or 5 witnesses. It is just same as usual, going slowly, very slowly. The state presenting probably too much testimony about the same thing is redundant. But one of the themes, I've had the opportunity and privilege to sit in and watch in the courtroom. And one of the things that I've noticed that's a continuous theme from the defense is every single witness that gets up there and starts talking about the incidents that happened years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago. Then the defense attorneys get up there and say, well, you didn't charge him with anything that was gang related, did you? And the answer keeps coming back as no. And you didn't see anything that was gang related. And then their coached answer is, well, I didn't know. I wasn't trained yet. I didn't understand what the gang symbols or the gang activity was. So conveniently, years later, 6, 8, 10 years later, now they're saying that whatever was done back in the day was gang activity. Which is it's problematic, especially because a lot of these witnesses are testifying to incidents that have already been resolved, incidents where other parties already pled guilty and have been convicted of. So we're going to keep going through 10 years of testimony, and according to the state, they'll do it within 6 months.
Yeah, so I mean, what we have been seeing is prosecutors going crime by crime, and we are starting with smaller crimes. Last week we heard testimony about a carjacking. I believe the year was 2013, but I could be wrong on that. And this week we've been hearing about a separate arrest involving Shannon Stillwell. So it seems that really what the prosecution is trying to do is lay a foundation and say that these are individual crimes that are linked to kind of a larger scheme and linked to an organized a criminal enterprise in some sense. Is that right?
Absolutely. But what I will tell you is, in my experience with some of these gang experts that are going to testify in this trial, because I've had them testify in other cases. For example, on a most recent murder case I had that was gang related, so according to them, the expert testified and swore that gangs do what they do, and the difference between gangs and the mafia is that the gangs want to brag about it. They'll get on social media and they'll brag about it. They'll ride around with their flags. They're flagging either red or green or blue because they want the world to know that this was a act in furtherance of the gang. Very unlike the mafia. The mafia moves in silence. They do things quietly. They do things that seem to be legal, and they just work in the shadows, right? They do their dirt in the shadows, not gangs. So in this case, if they're trying to lay the foundation and show that it's been happening for this many years in individual small crimes, then where is the gang activity? Where are the gang signs? Where are the flags? Where are the colors on all these little crimes that supposedly are linked to the record label, Young Stoner Life?
It's an excellent point, Suri. One well taken. I just wanted to show everyone this live look inside the courtroom. We're just showing the courtroom seal right now because court is on the lunch recess. But we just want to let everyone know, if you are interested in watching the live trial, the gavel coverage, you can actually watch it on our secondary stream right now. So that is on our special event stream if you ever want to watch that. And as soon as court does go back into session, we're going to go right to that on our secondary live event stream. But in the meantime, we want to talk a little bit more about what we've been seeing. Surya, before we move on to our other topics, excuse me, I want to just point out the witness list for the prosecution is hundreds of people. I mean, more than 400 witnesses. But typically, in your experience, isn't it true that attorneys are going to make their witness list more expansive than what they actually will call?
Isn't it true? You're like treating me as a witness now. You're attacking me. No, that's a fact. The fact is that prosecutors will dump you with a list of 400, 600, 700 witnesses. In this case, they had a list that went all the way to 700. They're saying they might only call 4. And that is a dirty strategy. Like, that should not be allowed. You provide me as a defense attorney with a list of witnesses. It is my duty to interview all of those people. I have to figure out what to expect from them at trial, because nothing is a surprise at trial. We're supposed to be given this information ahead of time so we can be prepared. So when you provide a list that you never intended to call, that is just a strategy to waste my time. And that shouldn't be allowed. But it is, and some prosecutors do it, not all of them though.
All right, Suri. Any final thoughts? We've got a couple other trials going on. It's a really busy time right now in the court system in Fulton County. But I want to ask you, just before we move on, if there are any final thoughts on YSL and something that we should be watching out for specifically today.
Well, I think that the state is risking losing the jurors with all these little crimes with no gang connection, and they're going to stretch whatever evidence they have. And, it's only been half a week. Let's see what 3 months into it the jurors are thinking, and they might take it out on the state.
All right. You know what? I want to ask you something else, though, because I lied. I said I just wanted to get your final thoughts on that. I'm trying to find the video of the wolf sweatshirt that Jeffrey Williams wore to court today. I'm looking through. I'm trying to see if I can find that video. I can't find the wolf sweatshirt video, but we talked about it yesterday, on our air, and it follows, opening statements where the prosecutor Adrian Love actually read that poem by Rudyard Kipling that actually references a wolf. And one of the lines that she actually quotes is, "The strength of the pack is the wolf. The strength of the wolf is the pack." And then you see Jeffrey Williams show up wearing a wolf sweatshirt. What do you think of that?
I'll tell you this. Mr. Williams, also known as Young Thug, he's just as influential in fashion as he is in music. You will see him in the cover of one of his best albums wearing a dress, and nobody questioned it because he is a iconic fashion figure. So the outfits that he has, if you're watching this trial, you might as well be watching Fashion Week in New York or in Paris. He's going to have great outfits. And that particular sweater, I will tell you, I was there yesterday, and Maria, the scientist, told me I had bought this before this trial even started. I bought this for him a while ago. So nothing to do with the opening statements of the state. However, I do want to comment on that opening statement. So the strength of the wolf is the pack, and the pack of the wolf, and blah, blah, blah. It seems like the state forgot to read the entire book. If you read the Jungle Book, I promise you, the wolves were not the bad guys. And this seems to be happening over and over with this particular prosecution. Just like when they quote cases, when they quote case law, they only quote the part they like, but they get it out of context. And I'll tell you, in the Jungle Book, Mowgli and the wolves, that's who I'm rooting for, and I'm sure that's what the jurors are going to be rooting for here too.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I guess I got to go back and read the Jungle Book then.
Absolutely.